Everybody's Fine is a new film starring Robert De Niro, Drew Barrymore, Kate Beckinsale and Sam Rockwell. It's released in cinemas on the 26th of February. Joining me in just a moment is director Kirk Jones. But before we meet him, let's take a sneaky look.
Clean up aisle 5. Clean up aisle 5, please.
Excuse me, do you know about these wines?
The wine? These ones?
Yeah.
Oh, I stocked this section. Why, is there a problem?
No, I just want to get some expensive bottles of wine for my children.
This isn't for children.
I know it's not for children. It's for my children that aren't children anymore. What would be the best ones of this?
Well, we got wines from all over the world. We got English wines, you know, from France. We got Italian wines from all over Europe.
I want to make a good impression on my kids.
You will, yeah, definitely.
And joining us now is writer and director Kirk Jones. Thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
As I mentioned, it's not out until the 26th of this month. I had the pleasure of going to see it today. I thought it was wonderful. I've already confessed to you that whilst not many films make me cry, this did make me well up.
Good. I like making people cry.
Yeah, so thumbs up there for you. There's not many that have managed to do that. The clip there that we've just seen, put it into context for us then, for people who are interested in going to see the film.
Well, basically the story is about Robert De Niro's character, who is recently retired and recently widowed, and he suddenly discovers that he's on his own at home, and he realises that his wife was the main point of contact with his 4 children. So he invites them for a weekend to kind of reconnect with them. But such is modern life, they have excuses and kind of have to pull out one by one. So he decides to embark on a road trip across America and surprise his kids, who his wife has always told him are very happy and very successful. But of course, again, such is modern life. When he turns up on their doorstep, he realises that things aren't quite what they seem.
Everybody isn't quite as fine as perhaps he'd first thought.
Exactly.
We can tell from the accent that you are English, aren't you? Originally from Bristol. This is your first American film, isn't it? You've directed in the past Waking Ned and Nanny McPhee.
Yep.
Fantastic films. How was it sort of making the change? Did you find that quite nerve-wracking? Because I know that you did embark on a road trip, didn't you, so that you knew the country sort of inside out, or the areas you'd be working in. Was it quite nerve-wracking, though?
Well, I was very aware that this was my first American film, and as a writer and filmmaker, an English writer and filmmaker, I wanted to make sure that I'd researched it properly. So, you know, De Niro undertakes a trip across America, and I decided that the only way I could write that story was if I flew to America and took that trip myself. So I travelled from New York across to Las Vegas, and I travelled on Greyhound buses and on trains, and I drove a little bit as well. I took about 2,000 photographs, interviewed about 100 people. And not only did that inspire so many scenes within the film, but it allowed me to return to the UK and feel qualified to start working on an American script.
Now, you mentioned De Niro a couple of times there. Like everybody else, I'm very interested to know, how was it when you met him? Because the word legend is bandied around quite a lot, but I think it's warranted in his case. Were you nervous meeting the man himself?
I was nervous, but for 2 reasons. I defy anyone to say that they're not nervous when they meet Robert De Niro, because I just think, you know, whether we realise it or not, he means so much to all of us, and he's such a screen legend and icon. But you have to remember that I was meeting him to pitch him an idea that I'd already been working on for about a year, writing the script. So I was very aware that it was just one of those really important meetings. It's not very often that you get a chance to meet Robert De Niro and try and persuade him to be in your film. So I was nervous, but within about 2 or 3 minutes of meeting him, I felt really comfortable in his presence. And I have to say, you know, he then agreed to do the film, and nothing really changed in the relationship. I think we got on really well, and we're keen to work together again, and we're looking for projects at the moment. So he's a really nice guy, he's a lovely guy.
So now he's one of your best buddies. Excellent news. Just quickly, because we are running out of time, but obviously one of the main themes of this is family. Did that make it more difficult casting parts when there's a family involved? Because, of course, you've got Drew Barrymore, Kate Beckinsale and Sam Rockwell. Did you have these people in mind beforehand, and how does that work? Are you working on how they look, their mannerisms? When it's a family, does it make it all more complicated?
Well, it is difficult at times casting families. I mean, De Niro came first, but I didn't want to get hung up on appearances. I didn't want to say, right, let's find 4 kids that look exactly like Robert De Niro. Because I think the nature of real families is that siblings often look very different to each other. I was more interested in casting actors who were able to relate to the dynamics within a family. So the bossy elder sister, the more insecure younger sister was Drew Barrymore, the elder sister was Kate Beckinsale, and Sam Rockwell, I wanted him to be quite confrontational with his father. So I was more interested in the dynamics of the family rather than their appearance.
Well, it's a great film. As I mentioned, it's out on the 26th of February, but for everybody watching at home, if you do want a sneaky look, there is a screening tonight over at the Odeon, and there'll be a question and answer session as well with Kirk Jones. That starts at 6:30. You can get details on the Odeon website. Thank you very much for coming in, and best of luck with the film.